Good morning. Welcome to our LDSHE Wednesday webinar. We are a nonprofit group that has a mission to support, strengthen, and inspire Latter-day Saint families in home-centered education. We've been holding conferences since 2004. This year we are embracing our theme of Trust the Journey because of the COVID closures and going ahead and doing this online webinar series. You can find recordings of this and our other webinars on our Facebook, also our YouTube channel, and our website. That's under Latter-day Saint Home Educators. We hope that you'll find inspiration today, and we're very excited to have Chelsea Johnson with us. We will turn the time to you, Chelsea, for wrangling and ruminating rabbits.
Thanks, Allison. Hello, friends. I'm so glad you're here with us today. Thanks for being here. It's a little bit overwhelming doing something like this on a Zoom call. So I appreciate you bearing with me as we figure out how to tackle this. So I'm Chelsea Johnson. I am give you a little bit of background on me. I am not a farm girl. I am not really anything that resembles a farm girl. I grew up in Plano, Texas, with a bunch of people that drove BMWs. So my husband grew up in Orem, Utah. He is not anything that resembles a farm guy. He is a computer guy actually and works for a video game company down here in Austin. So if there's anybody that you wouldn't think of doing Georgics, that would be us. So backing up though, let's take an examination as to what Georgics actually is. Georgics is a literally translated, it means on working the earth. Georgics there were 4 poems that were written by Virgil. He wrote poems about agriculture, orcharding, animal husbandry, and apiculture, which is the care and keeping of bees. And he really, in these poetry writings that he did, he really examined the importance of taking ownership in the world around you, taking ownership in your life, in the land that you've been given, all of these things that you can take ownership in. He really delved into the importance of that. In the modern world, we have let's see, Thomas Jefferson Education, as well as the Lemmy Education Mentoring Program, really delves into Georgics as well. They have really focused on the taking ownership aspect of it. And I, again, am a very novice person in this, but there are so many people in these spheres that have that are teaching how to encompass this into your homeschool. And I have really learned a lot from them. So I'm going to be drawing a lot of my experiences that I've gone into are drawn from them. So let's see. So I mentioned a little bit about my background. Like, we're not hunters. We're not, we've never butchered anything. We just really, a few years ago, we went to visit my husband's cousin's homestead. She has a beautiful little homestead with chickens and horses and cows and goats and pigs and all these different animals. And it just really felt magical to me. My kids discovered the rabbits that she had, and they were snuggling all these baby bunnies. And in doing that, I asked her, I was like, hey, what is this? Like, what do you do with all these rabbits? And she explained to me that they were meat rabbits. And that was a totally foreign concept to me. I had never, you don't think about rabbits when you talk about meat. You think about chicken, you think about pork, you think about beef, you don't really think about rabbits. And so she explained to me some of the keeping of the rabbits and what that all entailed and butchering them. And it was a really interesting, like I said, it was a brand new thing to me. So about a year later, you know, this was all kind of trickling around in me and my husband's brains. And about a year later, we decided, okay, let's do this. We can do this. We just live in a neighborhood with an HOA on a little 1/4 acre lot. We don't have a lot of land to have goats and cows and, you know, all the other things, but we could do rabbits. And rabbits is actually a really great entry into if you are looking to be more self-sustainable, if you're looking to have more of an experience with homesteading. Rabbits are a really good gateway drug, should we call them? So we found somebody that was breeding rabbits. We live down here in Texas, and so we researched some of the better brands to have in our Texas heat, and we settled on Tammock rabbits, which were developed by the Texas A&M University to be heat tolerant rabbits. And because we settled on that, we did a lot of research into it, and we found a breeder that had rabbits available for sale. So we bought a breeding trio, and as we did that, we ended up with we were supposed to have 2 girls and a boy. We ended up with 2 boys and a girl. They said, the breeder said, "Oh, the sex change fairy must have visited you." So we ended up with 2 boys and a girl, but that even in and of itself, I mean, this whole process has been just filled with an amazing amount of learning on my part, on my husband's part, on my kids' part. And so, of course, we needed a place to put our rabbits. We didn't have any rabbit hutches. We just had a backyard. So my husband took all these power tools that he'd been collecting over the years, but not doing anything with. And he built us some rabbit hutches, and that was very educational. It was a little bit frustrating. He was expecting to build, you know, something worthy of this old house, and his skills weren't quite there yet. But he learned a lot in taking on this project. And so he built us our hutches. We had our rabbits, and a few months later, we had baby bunnies, and that was amazing. It was amazing to see our first litter of bunnies. Actually, the mama had 3 babies, and 2 of them died, and 1 of them lived. And so it was a really sad, hard thing to think about, you know, death, but it was a great opportunity to discuss death with our kids in a very tangible way. As we did that, as we dealt with the death of these rabbits, we were kind of preparing for the single bunny to die too, because usually babies, this was in the winter, and babies don't usually do well when it's just by themselves because they don't have other litter mates to keep them warm. But he lived. This baby bunny lived. It was amazing. We were so grateful. The mama took great care of him. And again, we had a lot of great conversations with our kids watching this baby bunny grow up. And when he got about 5 pounds, that's about the weight you want him to be before you butcher or process them. When he was getting close to there, we started having conversations with our kids. You know, they knew what the end goal was. This wasn't a surprise to them, but just to prepare them for what was about to happen, we started having these conversations about, you know, this is what we're gearing up for, and this is what the process is going to look like. And that was a really amazing thing too, because they got to, they had plenty of time to deal with the idea of this cute little thing that we've been nurturing and growing is going to feed our family. So as we did that, we were able to then gear up for the processing date. That was about 12 weeks after the baby was born. And actually it worked out that we just had 1, because it was a really good way to kind of dip our toes in the water and kind of get a feel for how this was going to go. Like I said, we've never done anything like this before, and we were really nervous. YouTube was a great resource because there's a lot of homesteaders who have posted videos of them doing homesteady things, such as butchering rabbits. And so we did a lot of research together as a family and prepared for this. My husband was amazing, and he dispatched and processed this rabbit with us all there because the girls wanted to be involved with it. And they were really just, I mean, it was a sad thing. Like it was a sad thing to be taking this rabbit's life, but it was also an amazing moment for our family to come together. Before this process started, we said a prayer together. We thanked Heavenly Father for the opportunity to take care of the rabbits. We thanked him for the health of the rabbits. We thanked him for the rabbit's life and that the rabbit was going to feed and nourish our family. And it was just a really precious spiritual moment. I'm so grateful that we had that opportunity to do this together, because truly it was something I'm never going to forget. And the sweet little tender prayer of my daughters, and I mean, it was a really great thing. So then my husband was processing this rabbit, and my younger daughter kind of lost interest, and she went off and did other things. But my older daughter was right there with him, and recently, before this had all happened, she had been pulling out my college anatomy textbooks, and we've been talking a lot about anatomy, and she was really interested in that. And so for her to see the inside anatomy of this rabbit, and hear that, oh, these are the lungs. And she's like, wait, I have lungs. And for us to have the conversation, yes, Heavenly Father is brilliant. He makes it so that everything that needs to have air has a way to get air. And we talked about that. And, oh, look, this is the heart. This is what pumps the blood. And these are the, just to have all these brilliant conversations about our divine nature and about our Father in Heaven's intelligent design for us. And to realize that we look quite a bit different than rabbits on the outside, but really what's on the inside is very similar. Just a lot of really tender conversations happened. After that process, we got the rabbit ready to cook, and a few days later we had a rabbit dinner. My girls were really nervous about trying this rabbit, and they weren't super on board with it, but we geared them up for it, and again had a lot of good conversations about being grateful. He gave us his life so that we could make our bodies healthy with good food. And after those conversations, they were willing to try it. And my little 7-year-old goes, "Mom, Lucky is delicious." And it was just, we had called the rabbit Lucky. Normally you don't name your food. It wasn't meant to be named, but it did get named. And so, yes, she was so excited that Lucky was delicious. And so it's been a whole thing. We have, after we processed that rabbit, we took we fed the organs to our chickens. After we did that, we processed the pelt, and we have a rabbit skin pelt. We made a rabbit feet keychains. Like, we used every part of this rabbit, and that in and of itself was also a really good lesson for our kids in not wasting, right? Being good owners of the things that Heavenly Father has entrusted us with. So that was kind of our process, start to finish, jumping into rabbits. Now we've had several litters, and we've gotten into selling rabbits to other people who are looking to start breeding rabbits, and that's been a great business lesson as far as teaching the kids about some money. There's just been, really from beginning to end, this whole thing has been rife with lessons. And it's been amazing to watch my kids learn and grow as we've done this together as a family. So Jenny's, my husband's cousin's homestead kind of introduced us to the concept of rabbits. About 6 months after we got the rabbits, we got chickens, and we have egg-laying chickens. My husband, again, had to build a coop and a tractor for that. Like I said, we live in a subdivision, so having them roaming our land was not an option. So we keep them in a tractor, which is just a mobile coop that you move around the yard. And that has been an amazing lesson, because chickens have totally different anatomy to rabbits. And so we've had a lot of great opportunities to discuss the care and keeping of chickens and the things that they require and how to keep them happy and healthy. We're not breeding them, of course, and they haven't started laying yet, but we're excited to have eggs and have that blessing in our backyard. And then, of course, after the chickens, we had to get our garden going. My husband built garden boxes that we could build a beautiful garden. We've got tomatoes growing. I mean, it's just been one big lesson in building a symbiotic system in our backyard. Because I don't know if you know this about rabbits, but their droppings are considered garden gold. So rabbit poop is great to add to your garden or any plants, because it's not something that needs to be composted, and it's very rich in the things that plants and the soil love and need to thrive. So we've been able to grow plants in our garden, feed them to our family and also our rabbits, and then take the droppings from the rabbits and feed the plants and put it in our garden. It's been a beautiful thing. So yeah, when we really learn how to work with the earth, when we really take ownership of the things that we've been given, there's such beauty in that just lends itself so wonderfully to homeschooling. I have found such joy in going out in the mornings with my children and feeding the rabbits and taking care of them and checking on them and filling up water bottles. That's another part. A lot of this whole process has been filled with troubleshooting, because of course you read all the experts and you think, okay, I know exactly what to do, and then you do it and it doesn't work quite the same, and so you have to figure out how to make it exactly what you're looking for. So we, being in Texas, our rabbits were going through water just constantly, and so we figured out a way to set up an automatic watering system so that they are being watered from 5-gallon jugs instead of just little water bottles. And that was a really cool thing, because that gave us the opportunity to talk about the physics and how the water bottle has to be above so the water can flow. And I mean, just really, I can't tell you how amazing this whole process has been for our family. So all that to say, you know, as we have delved into these particular aspects of Georgics, as we have bred our rabbits and had opportunities to discuss sexual education, as well as watching the mamas give birth and talking about anatomy and physiology and talking about family life and how the mamas just know what to do, and how Heavenly Father's blessed us with the ability to have, you know, the light of Christ, or in nature it's more instincts. You know, we've had those conversations, as well as butchering and being connected with our food, and being grateful for life and learning about anatomy. You know, all of these things, I mean, it's just rife with benefits. You know, some of the things I've noticed is that my girls do take ownership over the rabbits. They're so excited to show their friends these rabbits that have become such a big part of our lives. They have developed quite a bit of discipline. My kids are still young, but as they continue to grow, that discipline is only going to continue to develop within them. And discipline is different than in a just doing the dishes kind of way, because doing the dishes, you can kind of, I'll do that later. But rabbits, I mean, when you're taking care of something that's alive, there's not as much leeway. You can't just jump up and go out of town. You have to think through, okay, who are we going to get to take care of our rabbits? Who are we going to, you know, we need to figure out somebody we can trust. We need to make sure we have enough food. And so the burden has not been all on our children. Of course, mostly it's on us, but they're seeing us and we're preparing them for a life of discipline. I have noticed an uptick in discipline since we have started doing this as a family. We have had such a great connection in our family through these shared experiences. As we have done chores together, as we've built the hutches together, we are having these family experiences together, and now we have more inside jokes or more things to laugh about together, or more, you know, we've had a lot of great opportunities to discipline our kids throughout this whole process, right? Because if you've ever tried taking on a building project with small children, things go missing and things get in the way. And so we've had some good talks about, you know, not only self-discipline, but when, you know, something goes missing, we can't finish the hutch and it's going to take longer, and kind of natural consequences, things like that. And as well as, you know, we've got all these great tools and we need to put them away, and this is how we put them away. So we've had a lot of great shared experiences, which kind of leads into the next one, in that it has really forced us to train our children, and to teach them to work. I think in today's society, it's really easy to not probably train your children. I know that I was kind of in that camp beforehand. But when you're taking care of 6 big rabbits and, you know, 32 baby rabbits, the workload is multiplied, and you have to teach your kids to do it, you know, along with you, so that you're not out there all morning doing it by yourself. And so that that has been an amazing thing that I've seen. It's kind of incentivized me. It's incentivized me to train them to help. So also, like I mentioned earlier, we're selling some rabbits now. And so we've been talking a lot about business opportunities and things like that. I mean, we're not doing this to make money, but at this point we're breaking even, which has kind of been great. And so that's been really cool, teaching them how to interact with the people that come to buy our rabbits, and teaching them about money and about the costs associated with one thing and how you can recuperate the costs. So as we've done that, you know, there's also been, I've noticed kind of a loss of entitlement. I personally feel like if you're going to be willing to eat meat, you need to be also willing to kill the meat, which was kind of a paradigm shift for me. In high school, I learned, like I said, I grew up wearing high heels and silk pajamas, you know, so I learned, I think I saw a video or something about chickens being butchered, and I was just mortified. It hurt my heart because it was done in a big factory setting, and it was just so heartless, and the chickens were scared, and you know, it was just it wasn't a very good thing. So I went vegetarian for probably 1.5 years of my life after I saw that. And so anyway, it was just as we have participated in actually raising our meat, we can make sure our meat is happy, that they have a happy life, and that their death, they're not scared and they're not terrified. And so, you know, our kids have kind of, I feel like, learned that you're not just entitled to everything, that sometimes you need to put in some work, and that other people, other things sacrifice for you, and that you need to be grateful of that sacrifice, aware of and grateful of that sacrifice. So, you know, I've also noticed that our kids are kind of developing more of a grit and a stick-to-itiveness. They're not quite as easily dissuaded when things go wrong, because we have faced a lot of, you know, struggles on our little rabbit adventure. And so they've learned quite a bit about troubleshooting, and quite a bit about, you know, if that's not working, let's come together and think through and ask Heavenly Father for help in developing a different solution. We've also learned some food preservation techniques. Did you know you can can meat? I did not know that before this whole adventure started. You can can meat, and it's great. We also have freezer saver bags that we have, food saver, that has been amazing. We've talked, you know, about the benefits of letting meat sit for a few days, you know, and letting it rest and age a little bit versus eating it right away. We've just had a lot of opportunity to delve into these different topics with our kids. So those are some of the benefits that we've noticed since we have had more of a push into this Georgics lifestyle. Now, a lot of people have some hesitations, some major and valid hesitations when they're considering doing, you know, entering a family project like this. Some of the hesitations I experienced before we went this way, you know, I was really overwhelmed with the idea of all the things that we would have to, you know, participate in. The idea of taking a life was really overwhelming to me. And I have found that, I'm like a closeted perfectionist. Like, if you look at my life and you look at my house, I don't look like a perfectionist. But I really have found that I have this tendency to where if I don't think I can do something perfectly, then I just don't want to do it, right? And so there was this sort of idea that I had to overcome, that there was this perfect Martha Stewart way to have a rabbitry or chickens or whatever, and that if it didn't look like Martha Stewart, then it wasn't worth doing. I've had to abandon that. I mean, our hutches don't look like Martha Stewart's by any means, but you know, they're good functional hutches, and we learned a lot putting them together. So if one of your hesitations you're finding is that you don't feel like you can do it as good as you feel like it needs to be done, then I would encourage you to really look up some resources on perfectionism, because that's what got me over my hump. But also, you know, take the time to realize that so corny, but the joy is in the journey, truly. You're not needing to have a magazine perfect hutch or coop or, you know, garden or whatever. What you need to do is just jump in where you can and learn from the experiences. And that will enable you to one day have your Martha Stewart coop or whatever. Also, might I just add that Martha Stewart has a lot of helpers, okay? I don't feel like homeschool moms have quite the same. Maybe we have a lot of helpers, but they're not quite the same quality. They're not quite as, anyway, at least my helpers are, maybe yours are. So anyway, that was one of the hesitations I really had to overcome in going into this. Another hesitation was cost, you know, like thinking about, oh, we're going to have to, this is another, you know, several mouths to feed. We're going to have to account for that in our budget. This is another, we've got to build, you know, get lumber and building materials if we're going to build hutches. And so the cost was kind of overwhelming to me. But like I said, at this point, we had to sell most of our first couple litters. But at this point, we've really broken even. And if we can sell, you know, 1 or 2 out of every litter, that pays for that litter's feed. And after that, you know, we are kind of making money if we sell more than just the 1 or 2. Now, you want to make sure you have enough food for your family, because the whole point of going into this is connecting with, well, the whole point of going into this is connecting your family with the world around you. But secondarily, it's to provide for your family and provide food. So you want to make sure that you're reserving enough so that you are having enough food for your family. But after that, you know, my kids, my mom had a great idea the other day, actually. She said, you ought to let them, you know, have $1 or $5 or whatever of every rabbit you sell, so that they can then start tangibly, like saving tangible money. We have savings for them, but it's all digital, right? But if they can see the money and choose to save it and choose to pay tithing on it, that's another brilliant homeschool lesson that we can go into. So I think I'm going to start doing that moving forward. But anyway, that's the cost aspect. There may be some upfront cost associated with it, I've learned, but, and I wouldn't go into this to make money, but the experience has been invaluable, and now we've kind of broken even at least. So if you're doing something along these lines, just recognize that the opportunity cost is worth it, and the return on the other side, there may be a return. So another thing that I had to overcome is there is so much information out there, and just reading it and reading different people's opinions on the best way to do something was really overwhelming to me. It's information overwhelm. We have so much information available that weeding through it and really finding what works for my family was overwhelming. But again, and I think that kind of feeds into the perfectionism thing, but once I was able to weed through that, once I was able to find, okay, I don't need to do everything. Let's find one person who resonates with me. Once we found like one channel that really resonated with us on YouTube, it was a lot easier to then use that as a springboard for, oh, well, this makes sense. Oh, I don't think this part will work for our family. Let's find a different thing. So take heart if you are looking to get looking to get involved with Georgics, and you're feeling overwhelmed. You don't need to do all the things. You need to find one person who resonates with you and start there. Start small and grow based on your experience. You know, a lot of people say, well, I can't do anything. I just live in a neighborhood. I just live in an apartment. I don't have acreage. To which I would say, there's always a way to take ownership of the world around you. You may live in an apartment and not feel comfortable having rabbits on your balcony, but you could certainly start with an herb garden, a medicinal herb garden. You could certainly start with a culinary herb garden. You could certainly start with some smaller animals if you can take take fish, or a really great way for small children to take ownership in something. So start where you're able to. Don't feel like you need to have 5 acres to get into this. Like I said, we just have a 1/4 acre backyard, which is why we got into rabbits, because that's something you can do in a backyard, and a couple chickens, you know, depending on your city laws. But those are things that you can do. Those are things that you can do. It doesn't need to be goats and cows. You can start with fish and herbs, right? Another thing is, this is a hard one for me. I'm kind of a commitment phobic person. I've talked to a lot of homeschoolers that tend to be the same way, because you like to just have your schedule and not be infringed upon, right? Animals kind of infringe upon your schedule, because you have to be there to feed them, or have figured out a workaround for that. You can't just pick up and go on vacation. I joke that my whole life is one big contradiction, because I want to buy an RV and go RV for years, but I also want to have a homestead, right? The two don't work very well. The place I've come to is that there are times and seasons for everything, right? We know that there are times and seasons, and so you can have a RV time and season, you can have a homestead time and season, right? And truly, going on vacation, we can still go on vacation. It just takes a little bit of forethought, and that's not a bad thing for your kids to see you do. That's not a bad thing to consult with your kids on, you know, and draw on their opinions and their expertise and their friends, maybe, you know, as far as finding someone to take care of your homestead, your little backyard homestead. So another thing is, really, it was just out of my comfort zone. Really, the idea of raising and ruminating rabbits was really outside of my comfort zone. But I have found that time and time again, all the hard things in life have been the ones that have been most doing. My mission was so far out of my comfort zone, it wasn't even funny. But it is one of the pillars of my life that I look back on. It's one of the things that has anchored me to Christ the most. And that has been true of marriage. That has been true of having children. And that is now true of our little backyard homestead. All of those things have been so wonderful and huge blessings, but they have stretched my soul in ways that I wasn't anticipating, right? So if you are leery of this because you don't want to be committed to animals or a garden or whatever, just know that the Lord will bless you in that. Whom he calls, he qualifies. And I have found that to be absolutely true of my life, that all the things that have soul stretched me, I have ultimately been brought to be equal to that calling. So take heart. If that is you, the Lord will make you, he will make it work for you. Really, just in conclusion, I have a lot of resources that I will post in the comments under this video. There have been so many books written. There have been so many websites and YouTube videos and things like that that can help start you on your journey to being self-sufficient, to being a little more taking a little more ownership of the world around you. So I will post those. A few of my favorites, though, that I will just mention really quickly. We have really subscribed to the Back to Eden gardening method, which is really just creating a good ecosystem in your dirt so that your dirt can be happy and healthy, so that your plants will be happy and healthy. So I would encourage you to check that out. There is, love anything by Joel Salatin. He has written so many good books and essays on this subject, and I would encourage you to read some of his works. Let's see. Checking your local extension office. A lot of times they will have classes in your area, or be able to point you to resources specific to your area, which you can find your local extension office online. If you go to gardeningknowhow.com, they will be able to help you find that. And then also, one thing that's been a huge blessing in our lives is finding our 4-H club, which our 4-H here has a ton of homeschoolers in it. So not only has it been a blessing in helping us and my kids kids figure out how to take care of these things. We've joined the rabbit group, we joined the chicken group, all these things. But it also connected us with a lot of other homeschooling families in our area that I don't know that we would have met otherwise. So I would encourage you, if you are not already members of 4-H and this is something that's interesting to you, to find your 4-H group and join them and form friendships and gain knowledge that way. So anyway, I've got several other resources. Again, I will post those in the comments below. But really, I just want you to know that if this is something you're feeling called to do, if this is something you feel like will benefit your family, if this is something that you feel like the Lord would have you bring into your homeschool, all the hesitations in the world, they will disappear. You will find a way to do it. You will be able to do it well, and you will learn a ton in the process. And you know what? You're going to have mistakes, and things might die that you didn't want to die, and things might break that you didn't want to break. But those hard experiences will truly be a blessing to you and your children. I promise you that as you go forward and connect yourself to the world around you, as you connect yourself to your food, as you connect yourself and take ownership of the blessings that God has given you, you will see amazing things in your children. I will never go back. And actually at this point, we're looking to get acreage, which isn't something that I had initially intended on doing, but I've just seen so many good things, in what we've been doing that I want to do more. If farming's not your thing, if you don't feel connected that way, you can still take the Georgics principles of taking ownership and apply them in other ways. You can start a family band. You can start a family business. You can do flower gardens together, right? If providing your own food doesn't interest you, there are other ways to take ownership. You can do a cleaning business together. You can start a volunteer thing where you work closely with one nursing home or hospital or something like that to really take care of provide entertainment or love for the people there. There's a lot of ways that you can incorporate ownership into your homeschool. So thank you for tuning in. I hope that you are well during this crazy time. I'm always happy to answer questions, so put them below in the comments and I will do my best to get back to you. Thanks so much.
Like Chelsea said, if you have any questions or comments, go ahead and put those in the Q&A or the chat. That was really fun, Chelsea. I think you should share the story about choosing what you were going to call it when you were processing your bunny.
Yes. So my daughter was not a big fan. We were talking about it leading into this, and she was not a big fan because I kept saying butcher. We're going to butcher the rabbit or something like that. And she was just mortified. Mom, you can't say that because butcher means kill. And I was like, oh, well, what do you want me to say? What should we call it? And she goes, you should say slaughter instead. And I thought, oh, I think slaughter is so much worse. I have since learned that in the business, people call it processing. So that's now what we say. We are going to process the rabbit, which sounds a lot better than butcher or slaughter, but especially better than slaughter, I think. Had a lot of funny little moments like that, just a ton of funny little moments, and we've written them down and chronicled them. And that's the other benefit of this whole process is like I said, you have shared connections and inside jokes after doing something like this together. So
that makes it awesome. Thank you so much for sharing with us, Chelsea. We will go ahead and close. I'd just like to remind everyone that you can check out recordings of this on Facebook and YouTube and in our library on ldshe.org. And we will be back for next week is our last week of this webinar series. So come on back. It's at 11 and 3 Eastern time. Had to get my brain into Eastern. Also, be looking for some announcements on how you can, information and opportunities on volunteering with LDSHE. It is a lot of fun and you work with really great people. So watch for those opportunities that should be posted within the next few days. Have a great day.
Thanks.